All right guys, welcome back. This is Eric here. We just wrapped up another range day here at the farm, and I thought that I would address a frequently asked question that I get from you guys all the time, and that's about steel. Everything from, is it safe to shoot steel at various distances? Who do you get it from? You know, what's that target? What's this target? So I'm going to go through the range here. I'm going to show you all the different steel targets we have and tell you a little bit about shooting steel in general. All right. Hopefully this video will be straight to the point. All of the steel we have at the farm here is from shootsteel.com. He's a steel manufacturer that we've been working with, and we've been very happy with the quality of their product. This isn't meant to be a commercial by any means for their product, but all of our steel happens to be shootsteel.com steel. That's all we have experience with. But what I will say is that with steel targets, your higher end targets are going to be made out of AR500. AR500 is a grade of steel that can survive multiple high velocity impacts, and it's actually designed to be an armor plate. Okay, that's what they use to up armor Humvees and up armor fortifications. In some cases build actual body armor made out of it. So AR500 is pretty much the strongest grade of steel that you can deal with. All right, so right out the gate you got an AR500 target that's very strong, and that's what we use. It comes in different thicknesses. Now, a 3/8 inch plate is going to be your most common, and that's 99.9% of what we run out here. It rings loud, when you shoot it. Now, we actually have another plate on this 2x4. Now, this is just a 2x4 in a stand. Now, Shoot Steel also manufactures a metal stand that you'll see in a minute. It's got a little topper that goes on top of the 2x4 and a nut and bolt that attach. Simple arrangement with a spring. What the spring does is it lets the plate flex a little bit so that you get a nice loud ring. It lets it vibrate. When this plate gets hit with a projectile, it splatters. It comes apart, the plate dips like this inward, and in some cases it'll kind of move a little bit, and that splash is directed downwards, okay? More times than not. Now, some of the really powerful cartridges, the splatter will go kind of up and out and down in all directions. Most of your lower velocity projectiles are going to splatter kind of down, so that makes it extremely safe. That's a question that I've gotten from you guys. You're going, well, is it safe to shoot steel? The rounds bounce back, the rounds do this, the rounds do that. If you have your steel set up properly according to the manufacturer's suggested practices, you won't have a problem with projectiles bouncing back. Now, another question I get all the time from you guys is, what distances is it safe to shoot steel? Well, that depends on the velocity of the projectile coming out of your gun, okay? So let's say that I'm slinging some 850 feet per second 45 ACP at this plate. I can probably stand 5 to 7 yards, and it's gonna eat them just fine, no big issue. Now, would you stand 7 yards away with an AR-15 with SS-109 or any kind of penetrating rounds? That's probably not a good idea. You're actually gonna divot the steel, especially when you get near the edge where the steel tends to be a little bit softer. Shooting that high velocity round at the steel will actually chip and eat away at the edge of the steel. So most manufacturers of AR500, regardless of who they are, but namely with shootsteel.com, they generally recommend that a high velocity rifle shooter, we're talking AR-15s, 308s, any 5.56, 308, 300 mag, any of your high velocity calibers, you want to be at least 100 yards away. Not only for the longevity of the steel, but also for the safety of the shooter. The last thing you want to do is have a projectile piece bounce back and hit you. Now, regularly in our videos, we do shoot steel at probably closer range than we should. All right, now the steel's holding up just fine. It doesn't damage the steel. Every now and then, and I'm talking once in a blue moon, you may get a jacket fragment, want to try to splash back towards you, but by the time they splash down, hit the dirt or the stand, and then fly up and over and back towards you, they're moving so slow that they're not going to hurt you. But obviously safety is always a priority when you're dealing with firearms. So this particular piece of steel is a half-size D28. We're going to move around the range. I'm going to show you more varieties of steel that we shoot. This is probably the most common medium range target that we like to shoot. It's got a small enough head up here to where if you've got a precision bolt gun, you can shoot this from 200 or 300 yards and hit it without too much difficulty. Or if you want to practice transitioning from target to target at, say, 75 to 150 yards and just practicing your trigger control and moving along, This is a great target for that because it simulates shooting at a full-size D28 at slightly longer range. See, it's all about perspective. You know, behind me here, I've got some of the itty-bitty little D28s that are like this big. And those are great for handguns, but they're also great for rifles. If I shoot that quarter size or 1/8 size or any of the smaller D28s, the itty-bitty ones, and I shoot that plate from like 250 yards away, it's going to simulate shooting the big gong at the real range if it were further away. So let's move along. I'm going to show you some of my favorite targets that we shoot, and I'm going to try to answer questions as I go. All right, guys, you've probably seen these in some of the videos as well. This is a 28-inch pepper popper from Shoot Steel. It's a reactive target. You shoot it, it falls down. Pretty simple. There's other elaborate things you can get, but I like these because it trains you that while you're shooting to judge a hit based on seeing the target and seeing the shot versus just watching the reaction. I mean, it's almost a delay. Like say you hit it with a 9mm, you hit it with like a 124 grain 9 or something. It's gonna hit it, and yes, it's gonna develop enough energy to fall, but it sort of teaches you to transition by like knowing when you hit something and when it's falling. It's just a great learning tool to really like teach you to develop acquiring the hit and knowing when you hit something and move on to other things. Now granted, a high caliber rifle, yeah, you hit it with it, it's gonna smack the crap out of it, send it reeling. This is also 3/8 of an inch thick, AR500 steel, 28-inch pepper popper. All right, so you'll see those in some of our videos. I'm gonna move on and show you a couple of others. All right, guys, this is one of my personal favorites. This is a full-size D28. Okay, the stand is also a stand that shootsteel.com makes, and it's a 60-inch stand. He makes a couple of different varieties, small stands, large stands, just depends on what you want. This particular target is being held up by transport chain, very, very high quality and high strength transport chain. It's a 3/8 inch thick AR500 steel plate, just like all the other ones that I've showed you. Now, what I like to use these for is, I know this is going to sound weird, but that's a humongous target. Let me walk near it. I mean, this is larger than a human torso. What I like to use these targets for is when I'm shooting bolt action rifles or really any kind of rifle at long range, okay? So say I'm shooting a gun at 500 yards like we do in videos on a regular basis. We can take like a small bit of spray paint and we can paint like a little black dot in the middle or a white dot or whatever, you know, opposite color we're talking about. And the nice thing about it is it gives you a really, really small point of aim. So when you're 500 yards away and you're trying to aim at a 3 or 4 inch circle, what'll happen is you get a little bit better feedback as to where the rounds are hitting. So let's say that we send that bolt action round in. All right, my point of aim is this 0 or this O right here, all right? I'm using that as a point of aim and the round hits low. Okay, fine. Shoot a group, the rounds hit low, I still get the group that I need without having to go down range and set up paper or anything like that. These targets also lend themselves quite well to like draw on point defensive shooting. So a lot of you guys that are instructors and you want to just show a student like a full size silhouette, you know, a student can can draw the gun and you can still draw a little mark on it for them to shoot at. But the student can draw the gun, and whether they're closing in, moving away, moving to the side, you as an instructor, it'll allow you to show where the misses are. So the rounds are going where you want them to go. Okay, a few went to the right, a few went low, a few went high. This gives you a huge chunk of steel to get instant feedback to what you might need to do to get that round closer to where you want. I just like it because it's a big piece of steel and it gives me a lot of feedback. Also, where this target really comes in handy is when you're shooting like iron-sighted military surplus rifles out to like 8 to 1,000 yards. Gives you a really big point of aim, lets you really get that sight, that bullseye hold where you can really, you know, lob those rounds in very consistently. One of my favorite targets. It's got a lot of uses, and best of all, it's portable. So I'm gonna move on, show you a couple of other things here. All right, guys, moving down the line here, moving on to the next gong. This is an 18 by 24 inch gong. All right, it's just one big old plate of steel. All right, AR500. All right, 3/8 of an inch thick. It's mounted to a similar arrangement that the other plate was mounted that we talked about, the half-size D28. Uses the same structure for mounting onto the top of the 2x4. Uses a very similar protection plate to protect the board itself from stray bullets along the bottom. I like this plate because it rings loud. When we shoot it at long range, it's kind of nice to just get instant clarification, like you hear that ding, you know, from long range. And it's just a really loud plate. And what these plates lend themselves really well to as well is you guys might have saw the Tourist Judge video where we were printing buckshot and printing different loads out of the Tourist Judge to show you guys what patterns do at long distance. This is a great target to be able to just paint it up, shoot buckshot or shoot shot at it, and you can just really see how that stuff spreads out, and you get a really wide range of area that shot will cover at various ranges to give you an idea how to pattern guns and stuff like that. I also like to use it for trick shooting. I know we had Jerry Mitchellak down. We were doing the upside down J-frame revolver shot at 200 yards, and it's really fun to have a target like this because it's perfectly square along the top. So when you're talking about a front sight post on most, you know, pistols, revolvers, rifles, many of them are somewhat square shaped on the top. It gives you a really good reference point when you're trying to have, you know, some kind of funky hold, like whether you're holding the gun upside down or it's a bullseye hole with a milsurp at the bottom. I like having a square edge on the top and bottom for some of those odd holds, whether it's an upside down bullseye hold, a normal bullseye hold. It just gives you a lot more versatility for doing trick shots or patterning guns and other things like that. So many of you guys have been asking why a target needs to be that shape. At least for my use, that's why. All right, so moving on. All right, guys, back over here at the Steel Challenge course, okay? There's a variety of different courses that you can set up, you know, depending on how you want to run them. This is one of them. Of course, we have a 12-inch plate as a stop plate. You'll see a lot of these on our range all the time. Round gongs are great because they don't really give you a whole lot of room for error, all right? You don't have a corner that can just catch, you know, a wayward projectile or something like that. So round gongs are great when you want to practice transitioning between target to target. And that's a good thing. You know, when you're concentrating on hitting the center of the gong, it's not like where you can seek out a mulligan from a big old huge gong where the round might go to the side or something. Okay, you still heard a ping, it's still a hit. This trains you to be a little more precise, you know, at handgun distances, 7 to 15 yards. You can hit these little 12 to 10-inch gongs. The ones you see up here, these are 10-inch gongs, all right? This particular gong is set up very similar. It's mounted the same way. It uses the same mounting fixture and everything like that. But only difference, it's just a 10-inch plate. So I got a few more to show you, but these round gongs are very handy. And the nice thing about them that I like, well, especially you see how much steel we have out here, but one thing I like about a small gong is that they're generally not very expensive. So for some of you guys just trying to get, you know, initially into shooting steel on a regular basis, get you, you know, 2 or 3 round gongs, a couple of small poppers, and you're on your way to having a range that's outfitted quite nicely with a variety of steel. Again, both of these round gongs, 3/8 of an inch thick, AR500. They don't ring quite as loud as some of the big ones, but believe me, you know when you hit them. I'm gonna show you a couple more. All right, guys, well, this is a target that I have a love-hate relationship with. This is their prairie dog, all right, and he's an auto resetting target, little small prairie dog silhouette. You shoot him, he just pops right back up. Pretty simple there. I say love-hate because on these targets, they're great because they're hard to hit. So at 200 yards with a precision bolt gun or 300 yards with a precision bolt gun, this little guy starts looking pretty dang tiny to try to pick off. And we've done it on numerous occasions at pretty long range and even at close range. When I set up the 3-gun course, when we had Jerry Mitchellak down, our handgun iteration had 2 of these little guys. And you'd be surprised how when you're on the move and you're trying to shoot, how hard it can be to hit a little guy like this. So it can kind of train you to kind of shoot smooth, but shoot fast. And you get used to transitioning between different targets. You really don't think to experience having to shoot a gopher or a prairie dog or something like that. Again, AR500, 3/8 of an inch thick, rated for all kind of different velocities. I'm gonna show you a couple more and we're gonna close the video out. But I like this little guy. I get a lot of questions about him. Best of all, these things aren't really all that expensive. Excellent addition to the range. If you don't have a small critter popper at your range, you need to get one. Let's move on. All right, some of you guys might prefer a target that's a little bit more static looking instead of like a critter target. We got a 12-inch Colt auto popper. We shoot at these on a regular basis. These are great for like 500-yard work with a precision bolt gun. You get the thing dialed in really nice. And if you can hit this little target at 500 yards or so, you know, you shoot it, it falls down, pops right back into place. Pretty standard fare. We've only got 2 of these, so you probably haven't seen many of them in the videos. But just to let you guys know what's out there, that's a very popular target in general. All right, last but not least, we got our 22-inch round gong. This is a gong that we keep posted here at 440. Again, it rings very loud. And the nice thing I like about it is, you know, we do a lot of iron sight work with various military surplus rifles. So it's nice to, you know, have the sight setting in a way that you can get a good consistent bullseye hold. And it'll kind of group the rounds and you can get an idea what the rounds are doing and either make fine adjustments to your sights at long range or, you know, just give you a consistent point of aim with a bullseye hold, something that's easy to see, so that you lob those rounds in there. And you'd be surprised how tight of a group you can shoot on this plate with a rifle with iron sights with the proper hold, okay? So we use a lot of these big gongs like this for that reason. You know, some of you guys ask questions like, well, dang, you can't hit, you know, a 20-inch plate, you can't hit a 15-inch plate, you can't hit a 12-inch plate at 500 yards. Well, no, it's not that. It's just that when you're shooting iron sights, it helps to have a large general point of aim that once you get that bullseye hold just right, you can actually shoot pretty dang good and put those rounds exactly where you want them. So we hope that you found this video enjoyable. We have a lot more steel than what we showcased here. I've got some 50 BMG targets. I've got a few other odds and ends, things that we weren't able to show you, but hopefully you guys gained a little bit of knowledge about steel and what it's designed to do, what its intended purposes are, and hopefully, you know, the safe distances that they're designed to be shot. Velocity pretty much is king when it comes to shooting steel. You know, you're getting into really fast cartridges. You want to make sure you back off a little bit so you're not, for one, you're not damaging the steel, and 2, you're not causing yourself any undue injury from anything splashing back at you. So hope you enjoyed the video. We have many more to come. Keep asking those questions. Once we get a lot of them together, I get enough of the same question, I'll do a video and we'll answer your question. So I appreciate you watching. We'll catch you next time.